In scientific writing, figures are usually accompanied with a figure caption. This is typically a short paragraph that describes what's in the figure. When I talk to my students about what they should include in their figure captions, I tell them that it should be between 4 to 6 sentences long. It should start with a descriptive title that states the overall trend of the data or the take-home message. You also need to include other information such as the methods or the assay used, the groups that were involved. You'll want to describe how the data was collected or plotted. Are you looking at numbers, proportions, percentages? Basically, what is on the X and the Y axes. If you have error bars, which in most cases you should have error bars, you'll want to tell the reader what those actually represent. Is it a representation of standard deviation or standard error of the mean? If you did statistics or ran any statistical test, what test did you use? And are there any differences among your groups? Basically, what this should tell you, I should be able to read it and tell you exactly what is going to be on the figure. Let's look at an example. Okay, they start off with this example with a title that describes the general trend of the data. The wild-type yeast are more resistant to UV-induced death than RAD1 mutant yeast. The next few sentences, they basically tell you what they did and how they collected their data. They tell you that 2 different types of yeast strains were used, the wild type or the RAD1 mutants, and that they were exposed to UV light for various time points, 5 to 30 seconds, and that they grew for 1 week before they actually collected their data. They counted colonies and calculated the percentages. They tell you that they used an average of 6 replicates and that the error bars represent standard deviation. Now, if they included any statistical test, they'd also put this in their figure caption. So, based on this figure caption, I would expect to see a graph that has 2 groups, the wild type and the RAD1 mutant yeast. I'd expect to see data points that show percentages of surviving yeast over the 5 to 30 seconds time course. The graph that goes along with this shows what is described in the figure caption. Again, you have 2 different groups. You have percent survival and what's on the x-axis, the time. So again, a good general rule is that the reader should be able to pick up the figure caption, read it, and tell you what's going to be in the figure.